It's 6:45 in the morning in Zurich, and the trains are already full. Not crowded in the way you'd expect from a capital city. No shoving, no shouting, just rows of people standing in near total silence, reading or staring at nothing in particular. The train pulls in at 6:47, not 6:46, not 6:48. Somewhere in the last car, someone checks their watch anyway, out of habit more than need. This is Switzerland, a country of 8.7 million people wedged between France, Germany, Italy, and Austria that somehow avoided being absorbed by any of them. It speaks 4 languages, prints money in a currency that refuses to weaken, and has sat out of 2 world wars while the rest of the continent tore itself apart around it. The question was never really whether Switzerland is beautiful. Everyone already knows that. The real question is what that beauty is standing next to. Because behind the mountain views and the cowbells is one of the most expensive, most disciplined, and most quietly competitive societies on Earth. Here's something that surprises most visitors. Switzerland has no official state religion, no single national language, and no strong central government telling the cantons what to do. Each of the 26 cantons runs its own school system, sets its own tax rates, and in some cases even decides who gets citizenship through a local vote. It's less a country and more a very well-run confederation of neighbors who agreed centuries ago to mostly leave each other alone. That leave each other alone instinct shows up everywhere. Switzerland has one of the lowest crime rates in Europe, and locals will tell you it's not really about police presence, it's social. People don't want to be the one who broke the unspoken agreement. Bikes get left unlocked outside train stations. Wallets left on cafe tables tend to still be there when you come back. Now the part almost no visitor expects. Switzerland has almost no natural resources. No oil, limited farmland, mountains that make half the country nearly impossible to build on. And yet it's one of the wealthiest nations on the planet. The answer isn't luck, it's banking, precision manufacturing, pharmaceuticals, and a national obsession with doing a small number of things extremely well. Breakfast in most Swiss households is simple. Bread, cheese, maybe muesli, which was actually invented here by a Swiss doctor in the 1900s as a health food for hospital patients, long before it became a granola aisle staple worldwide. Lunch is the big meal for a lot of working people, often eaten fast and alone at a desk, because the culture runs on the idea that time is something you don't waste. Dinner tends to be lighter. Bread, cold cuts, maybe raclette or fondue on weekends, which started as a practical way to use up hardening cheese and stale bread in winter, not as a novelty restaurant dish. Weather shifts hard depending on where you are. Geneva and Zurich get real winters with proper snow. Ticino, on the Italian-speaking southern side, gets Mediterranean warmth and palm trees on the lakefront. You can genuinely drive 2 hours and go from alpine cold to something that feels like northern Italy. Public transport is the backbone of daily life. Trains, trams, and buses run on a synchronized national timetable so precise that a delay of more than 3 minutes gets tracked as a failure. Most people don't own a car in the cities. They don't need one. And on the streets, dogs are everywhere. Mostly off-leash, mostly ignored, because nobody's worried they'll cause trouble. Families here tend to be smaller, and later, the average age for a first child has crept up past 31, among the oldest in Europe, largely because career and financial stability come first for most Swiss couples. Recycling is basically a civic religion. Trash bags that don't meet the official municipal standard simply won't get collected. Some towns find households that put out the wrong bag, and neighbors have been known to report each other over it. It sounds petty until you realize Switzerland recycles somewhere around 50% of its municipal waste, well above most of its neighbors. And a lot of that comes down to this exact kind of small, unglamorous enforcement nobody photographs for a travel video. Sundays are a different world entirely. Most shops close. Lawnmowers and loud housework are restricted by local ordinance in a lot of towns. And the streets go quiet in a way that catches tourists off guard the first time they experience it. It's not really about religion anymore for most people. It's a shared, almost stubborn insistence on 1 day a week where nobody's expected to be productive. Switzerland has a long-standing reputation across Europe for the elegance and style of its women, and it's worth actually unpacking where that comes from instead of just repeating it. Part of it is genuinely genetic diversity. Switzerland sits at the crossroads of French, German, and Italian ancestry. And that mixing shows in a wide range of features that don't fit any single look. Part of it is cultural. Swiss fashion tends toward understated, well-made, and quietly expensive rather than flashy, and that restraint reads as elegance to a lot of outsiders. But here's the pivot, and it matters. Switzerland also has one of the highest rates of female workforce participation in Europe, alongside some of the best-funded public education in the world. Swiss women aren't a backdrop for a travel thumbnail. They're running companies, sitting in parliament. Switzerland's had a female majority federal cabinet more than once, and shouldering a country that, until 1971, didn't even let them vote in national elections. That's not a typo. Swiss women got the right to vote nationally later than women in most of Western Europe. The elegance people notice on the surface sits on top of a much harder, more recent fight for basic equality, one that isn't even finished. Switzerland still has a gender pay gap hovering around 18%, one of the more stubborn in Western Europe. Switzerland's neutrality isn't an accident of geography, it's policy, and it's old. The country formally adopted armed neutrality in 1815 after the Congress of Vienna, and has held to it through 2 world wars that flattened nearly everything around it. That doesn't mean Switzerland was untouched. Swiss border towns took stray bombs during Wages, and the country's wartime relationship with Nazi Germany, including banking activity that came under scrutiny decades later, remains a genuinely uncomfortable chapter, not a clean story of moral high ground. Before any of that, Switzerland spent centuries as a patchwork of mountain cantons, fighting off larger powers. Habsburg, Austria, Burgundy, French kings, through sheer terrain and stubbornness. Swiss mercenary soldiers were so effective in medieval and Renaissance Europe that the Pope still employs Swiss guards in the Vatican today, a tradition going back to 1506. Resilience here isn't loud. It's not monuments and parades. It's a population that decided, generation after generation, that staying out of other people's wars was worth more than winning any of them. Even the geography had to be fought into submission. The Gotthard rail tunnel, finished in 1882, killed close to 200 workers during construction and took 8 years to blast through solid rock. And it's still one of the main reasons goods can move north to south through the Alps at all. A second, far longer version, the Gotthard-based tunnel, running 57 kilometers underground, opened in 2016 as the longest railway tunnel on Earth. Switzerland has spent close to 2 centuries treating its own mountains as an engineering problem to be solved, rather than an obstacle to work around. And that instinct shows up everywhere, from the rail network to the ski lifts. There's also a military logic baked into daily life that most outsiders never notice. Switzerland maintains a citizen militia system. Most men serve a period of mandatory military training and keep their service weapon at home afterward. The country is riddled with bunkers, tunnels built to be blown at a moment's notice, and mountain fortresses stocked for a siege that, so far, has never come. Neutrality here was never passive. It was armed, prepared, and quietly maintained by a population that assumed, for most of its modern history, that the peace could end at any time. Switzerland is expensive in a way that catches almost everyone off guard, even people who've read the warnings. A basic lunch in Zurich can run 25 to 30 Swiss francs. A single ride on public transport in Geneva costs around 3 francs, and a monthly pass can run over 80. Rent for a 1-bedroom apartment in central Zurich averages somewhere north of 2,200 francs a month, and that's before utilities. But here's the number that actually explains it. Median monthly wages in Switzerland sit around 6,700 francs, among the highest in the world. A barista in Zurich can earn more in an hour than a barista in Lisbon or Prague earns in most of a day. That's the real story behind the sticker shock. Prices aren't just high, wages are matched to them, and the gap between what a tourist pays and what a local earns to pay it is the whole picture. It's a strange kind of expensive. Everything costs more, but for the people who live and earn there, it mostly balances out. For everyone else passing through, it doesn't. Health insurance shows the same pattern in a different form. It's mandatory for every resident, and it isn't cheap. A basic plan can run 300 to 400 francs a month per person, paid entirely out of pocket rather than through payroll deductions, the way it works in a lot of neighboring countries. The upside is a healthcare system that consistently ranks among the best in the world for outcomes and wait times. The trade-off is that Swiss households budget for it the way other countries budget for rent. Groceries follow the same logic. A liter of milk or a dozen eggs cost noticeably more in a Swiss supermarket than just across the border in France or Germany, which is exactly why so many Swiss residents living near a border make a habit of driving into the next country to stock up. It's common enough that some French and German border towns have built entire retail strips catering specifically to Swiss shoppers looking to save on their weekly shop. Switzerland's reputation for order has a shadow side, and it's worth naming honestly. The country's banking secrecy laws in place for most of the 20th century made it a preferred destination for hiding wealth, sometimes legitimately, often not. Dictators, arms dealers, and tax evaders parked fortunes in Swiss accounts for decades before international pressure forced reform, starting in the 2010s. Switzerland still ranks among the world's top financial secrecy jurisdictions, even after the changes. There's also a quieter, more uncomfortable history involving Swiss institutions and Nazi-era golden assets, some of which weren't returned to Holocaust survivors' families until class action lawsuits in the late 1990s forced the issue. On the ground, Switzerland is genuinely one of the safer countries to visit. Violent crime is rare. The real risks are pickpocketing in tourist-heavy train stations like Zurich 8B and scams targeting travelers around currency exchange. The danger here isn't in dark alleys. It's in paperwork, in institutions, in a system built to protect money quietly and ask very few questions. There's a more recent version of this story too. Credit Suisse, one of Switzerland's two largest banks and a name synonymous with Swiss banking for over 150 years, collapsed in March 2023 after a string of scandals and a loss of confidence that spread faster than regulators could contain. It was absorbed by its rival UBS in an emergency deal brokered by the Swiss government over a single weekend. For a country that built its global reputation on financial stability, watching one of its own pillars fall apart in real time was a genuine shock, and it reopened a lot of the old questions about how much oversight Swiss banking actually has. The Swiss Alps cover about 60% of the country's total land area, and they're not just scenery, they shape everything from where people can build to how goods move across the continent. The Matterhorn, at 4,478 meters, is one of the most photographed mountains on Earth, despite the fact that its true summit wasn't reached until 1865, and 4 of the 7 climbers on that first ascent died on the way down. Lake Geneva stretches across the border into France and has been a magnet for writers and exiles for centuries. Byron, Shelley, and Mary Shelley were all here in 1816, in a summer so cold and stormy from a distant volcanic eruption that it partly inspired the writing of Frankenstein. Switzerland is also home to 12 UNESCO World Heritage Sites, including the Rhaetian Railway through the Albula and Bernina Passes, an engineering feat carved directly into cliff faces in the early 1900s that's still in daily operation today. This is a river that seems to have escaped somewhere greener. Glacial water so clear and blue it looks digitally altered, running straight off the mountains and into towns that built their entire identity around it. The biodiversity packed into a country this small is easy to underestimate. Switzerland has recorded over 40,000 animal species and around 3,000 plant species within its borders, an unusually high concentration for a landlocked country of its size, largely because the terrain shifts so dramatically, from Mediterranean lake basins to alpine tundra, within relatively short distances. The Aletsch Glacier, the largest in the Alps, stretches over 20 kilometers and is retreating fast enough that scientists use it as a visible marker of climate change for the whole mountain range. Then there's the Rhine Falls near Schaffhausen, the largest waterfall in Europe by volume, thundering out of a landscape that otherwise looks almost too tidy to produce something that loud. It's the kind of place that reminds you Switzerland isn't just manicured towns and train schedules. Underneath the order, the terrain is still doing whatever it wants. If this country is going to pull you in, here's where to start. Zurich is the obvious entry point, polished, walkable, with a lakefront that turns into an open-air swimming spot the second summer hits. Lucerne is smaller and arguably more photogenic, with its wooden chapel bridge dating back to the 14th century. For something quieter, Interlaken sits between 2 lakes and serves as the gateway to the Jungfrau region, where you can take a train up to Europe's highest railway station at over 3,400 meters. Ticino, especially the towns of Lugano and Bellinzona, feels almost like a different country. Italian-speaking, warmer, with castles that once guarded the Alpine trade routes. The hidden gem most tourists skip is Appenzell, a small rural region where tradition runs deep enough that some communities still practice open-air, hand-raised voting in the town square, a system dating back to the Middle Ages. Practical tip: buy a Swiss travel pass before you arrive. Transport here is efficient but not cheap, and the pass genuinely pays for itself within a few days of moving around. A few other things worth knowing before you go. Tap water is drinkable almost everywhere, including most public fountains in cities and villages, so there's no real need to buy bottled water. A small thing, but it adds up fast in a country this expensive. Tipping isn't expected the way it is in the US, since service charges are already built into restaurant prices by law. Rounding up is polite, but nobody's counting on it. Timing your visit matters more here than in most places. July and August bring crowds and higher prices to the big lake towns, while shoulder seasons, May, June, September, give you the same views with a fraction of the tourists and noticeably lower hotel rates. If skiing's the goal, the season generally runs from late November through April in the higher resorts, though glacier skiing at spots like Zermatt is possible even in summer. And don't limit the trip to just the postcard towns. Some of the best experiences come from picking one region, Ticino, or the Bernese Oberland, or the Valais, and actually staying there for a few days instead of racing between Zurich, Lucerne, and Geneva on a checklist. Switzerland rewards slowing down, which is a strange thing to say about a country this obsessed with punctuality. Switzerland doesn't perform for anyone. It doesn't need to sell itself with noise, because the trains run on time whether you're watching or not, and the mountains don't care if you brought a camera. What you're left with after the fondue and the cable cars and the too expensive coffee is a country that decided a long time ago exactly what it wanted to be, and then just quietly became it, generation after generation, while most of the world was busy arguing about something else. Maybe the real question isn't whether Switzerland is as picture-perfect as it looks. It's whether you've ever lived even a single day with that kind of discipline, that kind of patience, that kind of quiet insistence on doing things right instead of doing them fast. If you've made it this far and you're enjoying the journey, a like and a subscribe genuinely help.